the actor's voice, the way he talks changes, the way
Right.
he communicates. He doesn't sound he starts to sound less and less as alien as
Yeah.
an episode goes on. You know what I mean? Like, so definitely, if you go back and watch episode 1 till now, it's almost like two different people. You know what I mean? Like, he's
Right.
adapting more. He's learning to he's catching on the social cues and certain things like that. You know, about to have people sleep in 2-minute cycles. Uh, um, but yeah, like I said, I mean, like I said, that was pretty early on in the show when he was just like, she's like, I'm not leaving because my dad is going through this, and you know, AYZ, and he did what he had to do, you know, and at that time, like you said, I don't think there was any ill will there when he wasn't thinking about the ramification of what would happen. He just did it just to get her to go.
Right.
Um, and as we find out, as he explains, like he's pretty much rewritten his DNA with some of his own. And and like you said, you know, he might be going back to Auntie and whip her. Um, but I'm not sure, like, if you know they even have the breathable conditions of the planet is even. I would think so.
So it was weird because the thing about it, like every time that we see him in Anthea, he's wearing a breathing apparatus. It looks
Right,
like.
like it's dusty all the time up there.
Right. So
it's
like
just
they ain't even got oxygen. Like,
like
it looks like they're on
like
Mars, honestly.
they were coming to Earth for the water, or they were coming to Earth for the supply. They were coming. He's coming to Earth to create a supply of the power supply for the ships. I think like they need to get off of the planet.
I can't even remember, to be honest with
Yeah,
you,
I feel like
because
the goal for that kind of changes. I'm like, okay, they here for the water supply, or they just need to
because I
replicate the
think
fusion.
that they're trying to replicate the fusion to be able to make the water sustainable again.
Right.
Because at a certain point, like their natural resources and their water has just been gone. So they need to find a new energy source to be able to make it sustainable. I think that's what it is. But I
Right.
do know that a good amount of their population went so bad that a lot of people started dipping.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think that's interesting. And I think you're right. I think at this point now, by the end of this episode, he's feeling it. Like, because he legit apologized. And like
Right.
that's not his MO. Like he
No.
don't even know how to apologize, but he understands the gravity of this so much that he took responsibility for it. The difference with that is that Justin accepted what he did because she knows the value of what her dad was trying to do. Her dad always has Justin first. And so it was like, even though he couldn't communicate it, he was figuring out what they needed, because that was the first thing she was like telling him, like, we're still trying to figure this out. And then that's when he was like, it's about the music, it's about the soul, it's
Right.
you know, it's a spiritual. I think that's something he said. And then from that point, that was when he started having these issues, and it was like his subconscious mind was trying to break it down. So yeah, man, it's crazy.
Poor Molly, man. She keep getting caught in these situations. Like, if they don't get this girl some childcare, or like, like Grandpa just like dipped off on her, man. Went in the shop. She just like, you know,
Pupa, poor Pupa.
right. Um, but yeah, man. Like I said, it's just it's a lot going on in the situation. And you were talking about the whole situation earlier with the tornado. And even though that was like forever ago, they're finally going back to that, like, and saying that of course that was not a naturally made tornado,
Right.
and that it was caused by by Thomas Newton to communicate to Faraday, and somehow, some way, through the means of science, they were able to track that back to across the world to its origin point. You know what I mean? So.
They did.
I
Who
thought that
was
was
it?
interesting, especially that agent. I'm trying to remember her name. I've said it like 18 times, but she's another one where like she's come on board to the mission, and she's just like, first thing she's like, oh, it's an alien. Okay, let's go. You know what I mean? Like so I want, like I said, it's another story where I'm like, okay, is there like any backstory to that? Do we need it? Or has there been like previous alien encounters outside of Thomas Newton and Faraday?
She's a double agent though at this point,
Yeah,
because
they did show that. They did show that.
I don't know who she was talking to, but she did show up to the doctor. But I'm willing to bet you she's talking to Spencer's boss. I think Spencer's boss planted her there to make sure to get tabs on everything, because that's the only thing that makes sense,
Right.
right? Because we know that this girl has been around him the most, and she's always one step ahead of him. Like
Right.
most of the time, she's like, "Oh no, this is where he's at. Oh, this is where this is. This is what I dug up." And I'm like, "Who is this chick?" And she knew almost everything about him before he knew about her. And so, yeah, nah, she's a double agent, but I don't know to what end and what they're really trying to do. I really don't know.
What I mean,
Um,
I'm thinking about that too when you said double agent, because didn't he like seek her out naturally, or was he giving her? Was he giving her file to find her?
so he was given her file to follow up on her, and he recruited her,
Okay.
but she had his file to talk to him about. I think that was like episode 1 or 2. I can't really remember.
Right, because we
Um,
definitely we like you said, we see the scene where like she makes the phone call, like, yo, I got some information, like, you know what I mean, like as soon as he pulls off. So yeah, it's a lot of like you said, double agent work, a lot of other stuff that we have not been shown just
mhm.
yet. Um and dealing with the whole Josiah situation. Of course, he's taken to the hospital. He's had multiple incidents through this episode, and Hatch just happens to know a doctor, and we're introduced to his friend or, or,
Yeah, I
or
think that was
ex.
his partner. I think that was his ex. Like
Yeah,
for real, for real. It's fascinating how many people Hatch knows. Like low key, like Hatch is the plug.
right.
Like Hatch is way like he might not be scientifically smart, but everything else he's got down pat. Um, and it's just I think his fault really is he loves his sister. I think
Mm,
that's really his fault. Like
mm,
he doesn't want her hurt. He also doesn't want her to turn against him.
right.
But now we've confirmed, Spencer confirmed, like, yeah, he did do it. So it's like
Did
he's
he?
completely he's completely blackmailed. Like, what is he gonna do now? So
They've brought that up what like 8 times, like since the show
he
came out.
denied it. He denied, and
Right.
I
He's
was
like, I
convinced.
didn't
He
do it.
had
I
me
didn't do it. I didn't
convinced. I
do
was
it.
like, he didn't do it. It's okay.
Maybe it's not in the way that we think. Maybe it's not in the way that Edie thinks that he did it, because you know it was just like, okay, I stole tech that I was going to sold on the side, but maybe that wasn't the case. You know what I mean? Like,
I
um,
I got a theory on it,
because
but
that's
I don't know if it's gonna pan out. So Thomas Newton told Faraday to find the wizard, find this guy, right?
hmm,
Now, Hatch, out of everybody, right? He not only knew that aliens existed, but he had the documentation and the blueprints that he had looked over already. Now, was he obsessed about it? No. Did he freak out when Faraday actually showed himself? Yes. But I have this weird suspicion that Thomas may have been in contact with Hatch.
mm,
Because honestly, why steal it?
right,
What really is the value here? Like I feel like there's a reason why he did it. And I think it'd be fascinating if Thomas was behind the reason why Hatch did what he did.
right.
Because I don't think he would do it just incessantly. I think there's a reason why he did it. I just don't know. I don't know why, but I think that Thomas is connected to it.
That definitely makes sense. But I mean, like that they make it abundantly clear that Hatch loves this company. He
He does.
loves his job at the end of the day, and I don't see why he would do something like that unless it had just cause behind it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and his, you know, as crazy as his sister is, you know, she can only see it one way, and this is, you know,
Always.
this has been personal for her and her crazy, you know, her crazy son. I mean, it would make sense that her
I feel bad for her son. Her son is terrified of his
he
mother,
coked
bro.
up, you know what I mean?
He had to be like he was like, man, look, I can't do it, with my mom, bro.
I gotta get out of here. But yeah, we get introduced to Hatch's, you know, ex, and just the relationship there, and like again, like, he's explaining to him like, look, you know, when I lost that, I feel like I lost everything. Again, reconfirming like that this job meant so much to him,
Right.
but to the point where like he completely abandoned him,
Yeah.
and you know, it's been a couple years, you know, since that happened. He lost touch with him, and all of a sudden he just pops into his life to be like, hey, I got this alien, and he did something to this, and everybody that's looking at Josiah's file was like, yo,
Oh, that's a good point. He did. Hatch said to his partner, ex partner, it's alien stuff
right,
again, which means he already had this conversation with him about alien. Why? When would he have had a conversation with him about aliens?
right.
So, nah, that's a good point.
It's wild, man. Like, and then like now like you said with the Josiah thing, I think it's 100% more believable because like these are people of science. You know what I mean? These are people that a fact that they when they see things, it's like, yo, this dude shouldn't be here right now. Like this should not be a
Right.
I just thought like of course this is another relationship that Hatch is kind of tarnished by doing whatever that he does to like mess these things up, you know what I mean? Whether it be his sister, his dad, or his relationship with the company. And like I said, hopefully we do get that reveal of what the heck actually happened. Because like I said, we kind of come into the tail end, like where sister runs up on him in like that pitch meeting. So we'll see.
She went for that man's neck.
See what happens. We then we then get Spencer getting the information about Ashley, who was on the plane with Faraday and Hatch, getting the information about that, and tracks her down like a freaking creep in the middle of a and I don't know what it is about the FBI, CIA. They just feel like they could just run up you with a badge and be like, "Yo, I need you to do AYZ." And he's just so weird with it, man. Like, he's just like, yeah, Ashley, with LEAGH, you live at so and so. Your parents' names are what? She's like, oh, what did I do? He then confronts her about why Faraday, why she posted what she posted on social media, and what was weird about it. And of course, we know, like, Faraday has wearing a skin suit, so like the pressure of the plane, he couldn't, hold it. It was kind of bubbling, it was holding down. So this is now new information that he's going to try to use to probably try to hurt him or whatever, because now they know they can use radiation, they know they can use the pressurization, stuff like that, and figuring out that they can only be above like a certain level, which is why Thomas Newton is found underground. Again, what you think about this whole run up on the park situation, like his attitude and the way he went about doing this?
Right, he just, I think that they did the perfect scene with him when we introduced him with the waitress, right? And like he was like, "Oh, I love like this kind of location." He was just giving this waitress all the business, and I was like, "What are you actually doing this because you think this is right, or are you doing this because you just want to make this girl suffer?" And honestly, you kind of get a mixture of both. Like he kind of thought he was completely right, but then he also wanted to make her suffer too. And it's like the justification is always to the means, to the end to him. And it's like, but he also relishes in actually making people suffer, making them sweat, blackmailing. Like even down to what he did to the sister last episode, and even Hatch this episode, because it was kind of like, oh, you thought you were green, Ninja. You ain't green. I'll show you a red card. Boom, boom, there's your red card. Like, what you gonna do now? You got you. I own you, And he loves doing that.
I see.
But that scene though, I don't know, man. Like I really feel like he think he can do anything and can get completely away with it. I really do feel like he, at this point in his life, feels like he can do anything. And
he loves throwing off that badge. You know what I mean? like the one moment in the cabin where he felt powerless,
right?
And he was strapped to the chair and everything like that before he learned what he learned. And I think after that, he was probably already crazy, but then he just really just snapped after that cabin. He was like, "Yo, I gotta do what I gotta do." But yeah, Jimmy is a nutcase. We then find out that Josiah is not losing his mind, but his brain is kind of reworking itself to kind of figure all this out. Right there, everybody's putting it together, like what's going on, and he starts writing on the wall. And they think they're coordinates, but we found out that they're frequencies, because we're talking about music throughout the episode, right? And how music is another form of like well, they found out like music could be used as another form of energy, stuff like that. But they found out that the writing on the wall was actually music. You know what I mean? Like, and to figure out to use that to harmonize that to be able to level out the fusion or whatever they need the computer to do with that. And of course, everybody hops in, and like him sharing half the DNA of Faraday at this point, of course, makes him even more of a genius. You know what I mean? Like so.
Right.
But like his human brain is just like it's just not adapting to that. You know what I mean? So as they say, he's becoming something else. You know what I mean? Like, and not only rewriting his DNA and curing him of the disease that he had, but it increases his lifespan.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be the person that she remembers. And of course, like just Justin with her dad, we see the relationship there, and her kind of not wanting to let go of certain things.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of the back and forth between her and Faraday when it comes to that. And of course, dealing with her daughter too. And we find out, of course, we know the situation what happened to her daughter, and her eventually revealing what happened to her daughter's father, and dealing with that and stuff like that. So it's a lot that this show brings in, and like especially with those two characters alone, like the weight. But they're the CIA keeps saying, or Spencer keeps saying, like, we're not letting them leave the building with this fusion reactor. It's like, why even let them finish it? That's the question. Why let them finish it? Why let them do this?
Right.
What did you think about that whole scene with them and the the master computer teaching that the new jazz frequency?
Again, I love that scene. I loved it. I love the setup for it. I love the build up for it. I love the actual musical composition behind it. Like it actually took away from certain orchestrated like songs that I've actually heard. It was very fascinating how they did it. But I think the thing is, like you said, the most touching part of it is her reconciling within her heart that we had time. We had time together to really grow again, right? Her daughter got to have a fully realized version of her dad. But this is the thing that I think that's going to hurt Justin, and it probably does hurt her even today, even after realizing this, is that her father, her daughter are affected by her calling. Her calling essentially effectively killed the baby's father. Her calling effectively, changed her dad forever. And even her calling is affecting her daughter on an emotional level.
Right.
And it's like, what do you do with that? Like, it's like she can't quit. She has to keep going, but it's like this for me, right? And even doing like media and stuff like that, I know sometimes I'm sitting there working late at night. I'm like, it's 9:30 right now. I could be spending time with my wife. Like, am I taking away from quality time with my wife? Even though I feel like this is a part of my calling, this is something I'm supposed to do. And it is. Like, realistically, it actually is. Like, I could be doing more, but it's kind of like, how do you balance that? How do you still move towards your calling, knowing that you're also leaving or putting other people at detriment? It's just, this is more direct. And I found that from a written standpoint is amazing. Like, as a character, Justin is so layered that I don't know how she's going to get past her pain to move forward, but she's still doing it some kind of a way. But yeah.
It's funny you say that, because it's like every time she kind of has like this moment with Faraday, like she knows the ramifications of what's behind this and why he needs to do this at this point. She knows like she knows the lifespan of how much time the Earth has, and her agreement with him is to help the Earth survive longer. At least try to survive. Even though he's like, yo, y'all got like 20 years. You got like 30.
Right.
That's a wrap. I'm like, she's fighting to have a future for her child, but she's still, having to try to let go of that situation with her father. And like you said, getting that extra time that she wasn't even supposed to have, had she not even met him or he done when he did.
Right.
But like I said, I mean, it'd definitely be curious to see what they do going forward with Josiah. If they kind of sideline him or, do, but he's also if they do that, they at least left it on the note where he played a big part in this
Mm-hmm.
story by helping stabilize the fusion reactor.
Right.
So like he essentially helped save humanity. Like that's his story now. Hey, like my dad did this. You know what I mean? Like, and that's essentially, like you said, we found out this is how the story ends for this episode. It's like they wound up getting that stabilized, and they said they was able to teach a computer jazz. But I just thought that was interesting, like, you know, because now the dynamic again is once again changed for that family or those that group of characters. And of course, like, you know, we found out Hatch, like you said earlier, supposedly did it. You know what I mean? After deny this entire time. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the episode ended on a good note. We got a little bit more. We got finally get the explanation of like what was going on with Josiah. And we see Faraday definitely, like you said, apologize to that situation and become more human, more empathetic to certain things that he just did not care about, because his only sight right now is that mission and saving his family. If they're even still alive, he has no idea. He has no way to contact. So
Right.
I can understand that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if your mission is to come down and save your wife and child, you don't care about anything else. You know what I mean? So but I feel like I said, we kind of know where we know where he's gonna end up at that point. We just don't know how he gets there with the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you have anything else that you want to talk about on this episode? Or
I'm gonna throw a random wild card to
yeah,
you, and you can shoot it down, or you can kind of like spitball it. I've been talking to Lucas for a grip about Justin and Faraday.
okay,
Faraday has, of course, a whole family, a wife, kids, and he's fighting for their livelihood. Justin is fighting for Earth. She's fighting for her dad. She's fighting for her daughter. But they're they are essential to make this work.
mm-hmm.
But the more he's becoming human, the more he's making himself vulnerable to her. The more she's pushing towards her calling, she realizes that she couldn't have done it without him, right? And my curiosity to you is does she submit to these emotions and kind of like use those as like, okay, well, I can depend on him because he's not human. Like, he's
Right.
not going to judge me. Like, I can fall to him, kind of thing. And with him becoming more human, humanity is almost embracing of love. Ultimately, like, getting to understand of real humanity is to truly love and adore something, right? And it's like, yeah, he can love his wife, he can love his planet, he can love his daughters, or he can love her daughter, or he can love her. And so I'm curious to you, like, at a certain point, do you think that that's a possibility? And I know it's irrelevant to the story arc,
Right.
but I find it's just so weird how they're going closer and closer and closer as they're getting forward with this.
I definitely get what you're saying. I do think what I was thinking about that too is like I feel like their roles are almost kind of swapping, where like she came in, she was completely so far away from the science and dealing with any of that, to
Mm-hmm.
now, getting back into it full steam and seeing kind of the magic of what she can do.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, like, in the process, she has to make sacrifices, and one of those sacrifices is, like you said, like spending time with her family, potentially losing her dad, and some of that time in relationship with her daughter, which is, not really at this point, not to say this is sustainable, but
It's not the same.
yeah, it's definitely not the same. But when we start to see, like, Faraday, like he says, he before he completely loses himself to our world, this world, he wants to complete these send out these messages to his wife, and whatever, like, okay, this is me, while he's kind of still in his mind,
Right,
his,
man.
like,
Right.
but I feel like, he's becoming more human, and she's becoming more not. Well, he says she's not a drone, but she's a,
um,
I forgot what the
it starts with the A. Adept. Is
Adam.
that
Yeah,
it?
yeah. she's a leader. You know what I mean? Like she's getting more into that role. And like I said, I mean, her father's not gonna die, but he's not gonna be the person that he was.
Right.
Which essentially is the same thing. Like, cause I mean, like you're becoming a different person. You're not the person that I grew up with. You know what I mean? Like where she talks about her father, prioritizing everything for her. You know what I mean? Like, not having her mom and her father prioritizing everything for her. And she goes into the aspects of like the relationship there. But I do think that, like I said, their roles are gonna start to steadily kind of switch. I don't want to say like Faraday's gonna forget the mission, but as he becomes more human, I don't think it's gonna be as important to him. And like I said, especially because we kind of see the timeline of how things work out for him. He becomes Mr. Apple at the beginning of the episode. But that's a good question, man. Like that's like I said, I've been thinking about that for a while myself, and how at the end of the show, whether it's a one and done or not, like where they both end up at.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think that the first episode, the monologue that he gave in the beginning, it ended on him giving accolades to one person, and which I assumed it was Justin. But I mean, that doesn't mean she wasn't at the presentation too. Right. Or it could mean that she didn't make it because of him.
Those accolades could have been to her father too, who probably can't, because of whatever happened to him, get the credit for the situation.
True. Heck, we don't know how long this actually goes,
right?
Because it could be the daughter. We really don't know. But my assumption is Justin.
Yeah, they're very careful not to put a specific timeline on it either, so we don't know where between A and B is.
Right.
And I thought that was smart, because most shows make that mistake. Like, oh, okay, we know we 2 months in, they're gonna have to hurry up and wrap this up. You know what I mean? Like, so that was smart to not specific where like, okay, this is a year, 2 years after, 3 years after, or whatever. So. Right. Like we know, we don't know specific as to how much time that we have in between.
Right. Yeah, but no, I don't have anything else. I thought the episode was great. Yeah, I personally love the show, man. To be honest with you, like
I'm loving the slow build. I'm loving the mystery of it. I hate Spencer with a passion, and Amaya would say the same thing. Like she hates Spencer, but that's just a credit to that guy's acting, man. Like whether he's in Westworld or whatever. He does a good job of being the guy that you hate.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, him in Westworld, man. He was a cancer, honestly.
He started off as a nice dude.
Dude,
like that. Yeah,
that was crazy.
Right.
That's right. Westworld's coming up soon. I forgot about that. Yep.
Episode 6, Changes for the Man Who Fell to Earth. Thank you guys for allowing us to come in and do this for you one more time. Again, this is Terrell and Sam. And we'll probably be back to our regular schedule. Leave us a comment. Leave us in the comments for both of the channels. What you thought about the episode, where you see it going, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, let us know if you want us to do this again.
Yep.
Peace, guys.
See.
Filing out the top of the I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind. Oh Lord.